Hi, everybody. This is Philip Martin, and welcome to OnFilm for August. Hello, Paris. Paris has decided to pay us a visit. Let's see what Paris has to say. She says, "Come here, Paris. You wandered in here just as we were starting, so we have to have a little bit of a cameo anyway." This is Paris. Paris is a teenager. I think she's 13. Yeah, let's go with 13. She's 13, and she's in very good health, and she's my friend, my buddy. She's often up here. Usually she's back in the corner, and she's not not on camera. She's made a couple of appearances over the years, but she's a good girl, and she probably wants to leave now. So I'm going to let her go. See you later, Paris. Bye. At least if she's up here, she's not barking, which is one of those problems. Anyway, welcome to OnFilm. Now, we killed a minute without even, talking about anything. So, today is August 27th. It's not really, but that's when you're seeing this, I hope, unless you've cheated and opened it early, which you can do sometimes when I post it on my YouTube channel, which someday I'm going to try to monetize or something. I'm going to talk a little bit about this because, we're living in a different era now than what the era that any of us grew up in, with all the, our newspaper product is basically not on paper anymore. It is. I mean, you can find it on paper if you look for it, but it's basically something that resides in your iPad, or if you're somebody who, I guess people look at it on the, just on your browser, and you just go to the website and see it, and they're explaining all this stuff to us about how, to make it better experience for you guys and all that, and to really get you to hang on to you, to be stickier, to get more clicks and get more people moving around. And I've never worried about that because, number one, I'm too busy worrying about other things, and number two, I don't really, it's sort of like I have, to quote Tom T. Hall, who passed away the other day, I just always kind of figured that you guys would come and find me if you needed me for anything. I mean, I don't really know. I'm really not very good at and not very interested in self-promotion, even though that's sort of the way we have to do things these days. And so I would appreciate, I'm just going to take this minute, appreciate if you would follow me on Twitter at BorkDog, or follow me on Facebook. I'm easy enough to find. And if you'd click and move around this stuff and post some of the stories, the reviews and things that you like, you can put those on your Facebook page. You can tweet those. That's always helpful to us, and I never talk about it, so I'm talking about it now. And there's no hidden agenda here. I mean, just what we want to do is create an illusion that people are actually excited and interested in this stuff, and then maybe if we create that illusion, it will come true. It's always been that way, and I've never been good at it, so I just wanted to do that at the offset here. We may be doing some interesting new things in the future. I hope so, and if we do, then we will come back and ask you to click around and play the whole digital game with us, because it helps. It actually helps. And if you like what we do here, and I assume if you're coming here that you like it, then please keep up. It's been a really bad week. I mean, I just found out, the other day Charlie Watts died. Charlie Watts was always my idea, my platonic idea of a drummer. And people talk about him being rock solid and, metronomic. He really wasn't. He was really much more fluid drummer than that. I mean, it's sort of like he could pick the band up, and he would actually move it up a couple of beats per minute during the song. I mean, he would sense that the energy was starting to flag or something, and he would move it up. Listen to Star Star with the unprintable lyrics and the unquotable lyrics, and listen to how he kicks it up a notch and goes up 3 or 4 beats per minute right there in the middle of the song. He was not like this perfect machine that kept everything going like that. And my point, as it relates to movies, is that perfection is always boring. Perfection is always, unreal. There's that uncanny valley where you have, like the robots and the people who look almost like people, and the way that creeps you out. Well, there's something to be said about perfections also that way. When things are exactly snapped to the grid and exactly on beat and exactly on point, well, that's not as satisfying as this fuzzier, warmer sort of thing like you get with Charlie Watts, where you get the human feel behind it. I'm trying to think of like sometimes a Spielberg movie will feel that way. Will feel a little too slick, a little too sleek, a little too perfect. Now that's all a matter of taste. It's all subjective, and I'm sure that everybody else can talk about. I mean, I think you could probably make this same argument about Wes Anderson, because his movies have this certain look and they have this certain awful, almost mathematical proportions behind the way he frames things and the way he puts things in the scene. And if you start to figure that out, maybe you kind of like it, and maybe you don't. But I'm saying that what we call grace and what we call tone live in the imperfections, in the distortion, in the moments that are human, which aren't perfect, because to err is human, and that's what we all do. We all err all the time, and that's why it's good to watch an actor who doesn't recite his lines, hitting every beat and every syllable with perfect diction, for instance. Anyway, I'm just thinking about Charlie Watts. It's tough. Charlie Watts died. Tom T. Hall died. And Tom T. Hall I knew a little bit through Miller Williams. And he was a very interesting man. I think a friend of mine told a story about him when he was in school at Vanderbilt. And Tom T. Hall was supposed to come and talk to the class, and at the last minute, he begged off because he didn't think that he thought the subtext was he thought that the Vanderbilt snobs were going to make fun of him or wouldn't appreciate his sensibility. And Tom T. Hall dropped out of high school when he was 15 years old. Now, you don't really get a sense of that when you read his lyrics. I mean, his lyrics were simple language, but they're complex ideas sometimes. I mean, there's a lot of philosophy in Tom T. Hall's lyrics. And as I said in the story I wrote Tuesday, Tom T. Hall was not always my favorite songwriter. Tom T. Hall was both one of my favorite songwriters and one of my least favorite songwriters, because some of the songs he wrote I don't care for at all, and I don't like them. And that's okay. I mean, it's sort of like you don't have to like everything. It's like Karen found that out when she programmed Clockwork Orange at Cleveland State when she was in college. She was the head of something that chose films for the student union, and when she found out that there was actually people who didn't like Clockwork Orange, she was surprised. Well, there are people who don't like everything. You can only appeal to a certain number of people at a time, and you shouldn't aspire to universal popularity. That's one of the problems when you get into being the too perfect, and one of the problems when you try to be metronomic and you try to be nailed down, and why we should all take a lesson from Charlie Watts. Sweet Sweet Connie died this week. Sweet Sweet Connie, boy. I had my moments with her. The very first one was when I first got here, Arkansas, in 1989. One of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to interview her because, it's like I was a fresh young journalist. I was new, I was I was 30, but I was still young. And I was coming to a new place, and one of the few things I knew about Little Rock was I had been here before. In fact, I had been here for the Doc Holliday stuff and all that, but I didn't really know much about Little Rock, and I knew about Sweet Sweet Connie. So I was going to interview her, and I went over to her apartment and sat around and talked to her for about an hour and a half, and I came away not wanting to do the story, and I didn't do the story. I mean, I got a lot of stories from her. Some I believed, some I didn't believe, but I just felt the whole thing just kind of felt exploitative to me and just felt kind of like something I didn't really want to do, and I really didn't know what the purpose was, and I didn't know what I could add to the conversation other than what had been said about groupies and that sort of dynamic. People have written about that and talked about that, and you can watch Almost Famous and see the sanitized version of it. And I really didn't have the heart to do it, and I think that because I didn't write about her, I think I kind of got off on the wrong foot with her. And I mean, over the years, she would recognize me sometimes, and sometimes she wouldn't. And sometimes I remember one time, like in the early '90s, when I'd come back to Arkansas. She approached me and says, "Aren't you Philip Martin?" And I go, "No, I'm Nick Birch or something." I said, I work in insurance, and I take photos of accidents, and and she left me alone. And then, about half the time after that, when I would see her, she would sometimes recognize me as me and sometimes recognize me as the insurance guy. And she was infallibly polite to the insurance guy. She was not infallibly polite to me because I would write things she didn't like, I guess. I mean, she used to call me up and just cuss me out on the phone. I had no idea why. She would just leave this. But, she was a lively spirit. Let's put it that way. And I was glad to see that she was commemorated in the way she was commemorated, even if that's not the whole truth of Sweet Sweet Connie's life. Even if we can suspect that there was something, some sort of deep sadness or something about it. And I don't know that there was. I'm just saying that it probably wasn't the whole truth. But the story that Bill Bowden wrote about it was really nice, and it was a really good story. And I know that people weren't telling him their best Sweet Sweet Connie stories, because I know some of those stories. I know that you didn't tell them. Yes, I do. But anyway, it's you can't lime a life in a newspaper story. You can't capture somebody in an obituary, just like you can't capture them in an 80-minute, 90-minute documentary or even a 2-hour feature film. You have to pull out and just look at things very much, very granular, And I'm thinking, because I just wrote about this, so I'm duplicating what's in that column over there or up here. I just wrote about Let It Be, the Peter Jackson movie that was supposed to come out today. And it didn't come out today because the pandemic. It was actually supposed to come out in September 20. And, of course, the pandemic pushed everything back, and it got delayed a couple times. And it let Jackson and his team live with this footage, this 56 hours and like 140 hours of audio tape they had of the Beatles in January 1969 when they were making the Let It Be album. And, of course, there's been a movie about that. Michael Lindsay Hogg's Let It Be from 1980 came out, and from 1970 came out in 1970. I didn't see it at the time because I didn't live in a place big enough to have a screening of it, I guess. I would have been living in California. Probably not true. I probably just didn't see it because I was a little kid. All right. But I didn't see it. I didn't see it until years later, and I have a bootleg copy of it. And then I find out when I started to write my lead about that, I started to write about how hard to get it was, and then I Google it, and it pops up right away on, you can see it on Vimeo. So, you can watch it anytime you want. We couldn't for a long time, and I do have a copy of it someplace, and that's great. A DVD of it, actually, a bootleg DVD. And, but the legend of Let It Be is that it shows the Beatles as enemies, as frenemies at best, and then and all this tension and all that. And it really doesn't. If you watch the 80-minute movie, what it does, it leads a lot of the joyous stuff that probably went on in those recording sessions. But it's really guys just getting down to work, and they've got differences of opinion, and it's like, there's some tension there. But there's always tension. There's always tension when you're collaborating creatively with somebody. Even if you're not creatively collaborating, there's always some tension. There's some tension if we tried to rearrange these bookshelves back here. We would have, moments where we didn't get along. And we'd have and if you're making a movie, it makes sense to get the drama in the film, rather than the moments where they're all getting along and they're smoking cigarettes and they're talking about, pretty things. Get the other stuff in. Now, so Jackson comes along, and now he's making, and I'm really interested to see the technical advances he made, because They Will Not Grow Old, the World War II documentary that came out. Wow, was that 2019 or 2018? Anyway, it took 100-year-old footage, and it transformed it and made it really interesting to watch and to see these things. But it's different getting early footage like that and then footage from 1970, which I'll be interested to see how they clean it up, how much different it looks and how different it feels. I imagine they can do a lot with the sound, with the audio stuff and like that. And I'm looking forward to it just because I'm interested in things like this, and I want to see what he does with it, and I want to see how it plays out. But it doesn't negate the old film that we had, the old Let It Be, which was, again, a subjective take on the way these guys got along during this period in January 1969. And, I know there are a lot of Beatle fans who don't like Let It Be because it shows their idols with feet of clay, I guess. I don't really even think that. And there are some that think that Lindsay Hogg sort of idolized McCartney in the same way that Martin Scorsese sort of prioritized Robbie Robertson in The Last Waltz. Or maybe McCartney's just talking nervously through the whole thing, despite nobody listening to him. I can certainly see that, but it's just a snapshot. It's just a snapshot. In a snapshot, everybody who's been in a snapshot knows you can come across much better looking or much worse looking than you actually are. So, anyway, the movies that are opening this week. Candyman sounds interesting. I wasn't interested in it because I found out that Jordan Peele wasn't directing, and I was like, oh well, but it's got an interesting premise, and I'm really kind of interested in that. And Together, the Sharon Horgan movie, the pandemic movie, is something I've heard about for a long time. I'm looking forward to that. As of this moment, I haven't seen them. I probably could watch them this afternoon if I want to, and maybe I will because it's 100 degrees out there. I want to show you. Paris? Yeah. See, I've got this thing. These things are great. I mean, they're like $40. Get them on Amazon, and they're like little evaporative coolers. And you can carry them around with you, and it's hot up here. I mean, I'm on the second floor, and there's no trees because this is a new development. And there's no trees shading us or anything. It's not like when I was living in Hillcrest and I had these 100-year oak trees that gave me $40 electric bills in the summer. Really, we did have those. So it's warm up here. But this is the greatest thing. So it's a little product endorsement or placement or whatever. It's called Air Cooler. You get it on Amazon. I have no idea what the brand is. It's all Chinese writing on it, but it's wonderful stuff. It works great, doesn't it, Paris? And what else have I got to go through? Well, maybe we'll go on. Paris is going back in the hall. Back in the hall. I don't know why the girls like it back there, but they do. What are you doing? Oh, she's found her sister ate back there the other night, so there's probably morsels of it. That's like bad housekeeping, isn't it? There's dog food back there. There might be dog food back there because we fed one of the girls up here the other night when it was raining and she was nervous and stuff. Anyway. Okay. Yes, this is getting more and more like a podcast, isn't it? Well, we talked about the movies that are coming out. I do want to say once again, we've got Keith Garlington who's contributing to us now. Dan did not have a feature this week. I thought he had one coming, but he didn't have one this week. So we've got the old crew back. We've got Piers writing about Candyman. Got me writing about Let It Be. We've got Karen writing about home movies. And, we're moving more toward writing more about streaming services and stuff. And she talks a little bit about Nine Perfect Strangers, which we just started watching. It's really interesting the way that I sort of have evolved on this because I used to want to see. Paris, you okay? All right. I used to want to see everything before it aired, and so I could write about it, write about date of. But if you've got a six-part series or 9-part series or something like that, I don't want to sit there and have to binge the whole thing. I kind of want to enjoy it the way, the culture's enjoying it. Take it as it comes. And I think that we're sort of hitting a good mix here between, reacting to things. Because I write about, in Sunday, I write about, what is it? Oh, the White Lotus, Mike White's HBO series, a 6-part HBO series. I write about that on Sunday. It's been over for 2 weeks, but it's still new to you if you haven't seen it. So go turn on HBO and watch it. And going to the movies, it's insane. There are no reviews on the AP Wire service. I mean, it used to be that, you could go there, if you're like me and you have the super secret, access to it, and you would have, like a Wednesday morning, you would have reviews of everything that's opening on Friday. There's no review of Candyman on there. There's no review of Together on there. There is a review of Flag Day, which isn't opening here, but I'm interested in that. And it's just a different environment, so we're reacting differently. We're trying to loosen up. We're trying to not be so concerned with day of date and when things drop and all that. And I hope you're along for the ride. If you are, God bless you. If you're not, well, you're not watching this anyway. So anyway, we'll talk to you next week, and we'll be here in the studio. Until then, say goodnight, Gracie.